Hey, what's going on, guys? Methods here, and today I'm bringing you guys my personal settings. So Call of Duty Cold War just came out, so I'm here to give you guys the most optimal settings for your gameplay, and this is what I use as a professional player competing in the COD League. Let's get started. So to start off, we have keyboard and mouse. Obviously, we use our SCUF controllers over here. Shout out to our Ultra SCUF. So I really don't have much for you when it comes to keyboard and mouse, so we're going to start off with graphics. Now, disclaimer, I'm not really a tech wizard, but I will say a lot of these settings are low because that gives you optimal performance as a competitive player. So you'll see a lot of the pros, instead of playing on the ultra high quality settings, they'll use sort of lower ones so we get more frames per second, which I'll get to soon. To start off, we're on full screen display mode. Our refresh rate is 240 hertz, so that depends on which monitor you have, what type of PC you have, and pretty much what you can run, optimally, essentially. So luckily we're on 240 hertz, and that's the best looking gameplay you can get on this game, I think. Now gameplay VSync is disabled, my menu VSync is disabled, my NVIDIA Reflex low latency is enabled, display resolution 1920 times 1080, aspect ratio automatic. Now colorblind modes, I don't use them, but essentially you can just sort of, there's a bunch of different options to change colors in game. I don't use those, I haven't really messed around with those yet. My field of view is 100, so essentially that just sort of zooms out or zooms in your gameplay, and a lot of the pros you'll see between the 95 to like 105 range, 120 being the max you can go. My ADS field of view is affected. My brightness is on 50. I'm not really sure if I'll change this yet. I'm going to mess around with it, but as of right now, I have it right in the middle at 50. Frame rate limit I have it custom, so obviously, as you guys know, with the 240 hertz monitor, my max FPS is 240. So I have my gameplay custom frame rate limit on 250. And then it drops to 60 when you're on the custom menu and whatnot. So here's where we get to the details and textures. As I told you guys, a lot of the pros play on low to medium settings just so we get maximum performance when we're playing. My texture quality is medium. My model quality is low. My special effects quality is medium, screen space resolution low, object view distance medium. Moving on to shadow and lighting. So a lot of shadows can actually lower your FPS. So as you'll see, once again, we have some medium and low settings here. Volumetric lighting on medium, shadow quality on low, dynamic shadows on all, special effect shadows on enabled, and weapon shadow on disabled. So as you guys can see in the bottom right, you'll see VRAM usage, and there are some things that affect VRAM usage and some things that don't. So for example, texture quality, when I move that up, it uses a lot of VRAM. When I move it down, it saves a lot. So that's why I'm on medium for texture quality. I could be on low, but I prefer medium just to see a little more. The ray tracing settings, I have all three disabled. That's the ray tracing sun shadows, the ray tracing local shadows, and the ray tracing ambient occlusion. For the post-processing effects, I'm still messing around with this, but as of right now, I have it on performance. Moving down, we have ambient occlusion quality on disabled, motion blur disabled, motion blur quality on low, subsurface scattering on disabled, and order independent transparency on disabled. But to touch on motion blur, I see a lot of maybe non-competitive players use this because they really don't know what it is. I'll always have it disabled just because it looks annoying and it just it kind of makes your screen blurry when you're moving rapidly and objects are moving. Pretty much when you're moving, there's like a little blur on your screen that I'm not a huge fan of, and I don't think many pros are either. For advanced, I have my default on 80% for the VRAM usage target, display gamut. These are all standard settings that I didn't touch as soon as I got on the game. Moving on to audio. So what's cool in Cold War is we have this mute sound option. So you can essentially mute all sound whenever you want just by changing this setting. Obviously, I don't use that as I need to listen to game sound, but for some reason, if you don't want your game sound on, you can simply mute all the sounds on the game. My master volume is at 70. I'll probably raise this a bit when I'm actually competing in professional matches, but I kind of like hearing people a little better as of right now. I'm just learning the game and playing public matches, some competitive tournaments. So as of right now, my master volume is pretty low. I put my music volume on 0. I just really don't like listening to music. Doesn't really do much for me. If anything, it kind of annoys me. And all these are on 100. So sound effects volume, dialogue volume, cinematics volume, all on 100. My audio preset is on headphones. As you see, I'm using headphones, so that's why I have it on that. Hit marker sound effect always enabled. You want to hear when you're hitting people. Here I selected my headset of choice, and that's my Astro A40s. Moving on to voice chat, I actually have that disabled just because I really don't care to hear people in game. All my teammates and friends use TeamSpeak, which is a third-party application that we use to communicate. So people can tend to get pretty crazy in voice chat, and I just like to negate that possibility. But for the voice and text channel, you can talk in game chat in the bottom right of your screen. You press select, and then you can type to people. If you did have voice chat enabled, that's when you can change your microphone device to talk in game. And if you're on keyboard, you can use push to talk. But as I said, mine's disabled. Moving on to interface, this stuff is pretty self-explanatory. Subtitles is sort of preference. I have it on disabled, but essentially, let's say a new hardpoint pops up, a subtitle will come up, new hardpoint, or whatever the character says. I have that disabled for now. That's obviously subject to change. Introduction movie, I'm going to actually skip that. I didn't really see that one, so I don't care to watch the introduction every time I load up the game. HUD bound is basically your safe area. So for me, I have this as small as it can possibly go. And just like that, that's how you get it done. Crosshairs shown, hit marker visuals shown. These are all things I didn't change or touch at all. They're just the base game that I agree with all these settings. So damage-based hit markers, ally health bars, enemy health bars, player names, horizontal compass, pretty much all things that you want to keep the exact same. On the telemetry, telemetry. I have my FPS counter on shown. Essentially in the top left of my screen, it shows me how many frames per second I'm getting. So I know if my stream's performing well, my game is performing well. The more frames you're getting, the better everything's performing, the better performance-wise you'll do because you're getting more frames per second. For GPU temperature, I have that hidden. That's essentially if you want to see these things, like how your computer is performing. So if you're worried about the temperature of your computer and how it's performing when you're playing, you can enable that. It'll go on the top left of your screen. You can see that there. All right, now it's time for my realm. We're going with the controller. As you guys know, I'm using my Toronto Ultra Scuff Impact controller, and this is what I use to compete. This is what I've been using for years, and it's my controller of choice. So as you guys know, if you're playing on keyboard and mouse, this section really isn't for you, but if you're on controller, you want to tune in. So to start off, my stick sensitivities for horizontal and vertical are both 5.5. As you guys know, for my team, I'm the main assault rifle player. I don't really need to be super agile and quick around the map. I'm more so that back line, making sure I don't miss shots, helping my teammates out. So that's why I play on 5.5. My ADS stick sensitivity, low zoom and high zoom, are both on 1. These are just default. I didn't change them at all. For the button layout, this is completely your preference. I choose tactical, meaning I crouch and lay down with the thumbstick. And essentially, because I have the Scuff Gaming Toronto Ultra controller, I jump with my left paddle and I melee with my right. But if I didn't, I could melee with my circle button. So essentially your preference. I've been using tactical for a while. It's what I like. I don't flip the bumpers and triggers. I shoot with my right trigger and aim with my left, and I throw tacticals and equipment with my bumpers. So the invert vertical look I have disabled, and controller vibration disabled. I actually removed the rumble packs from my controller. I have Scuff Gaming do that. So essentially it makes the controller a lot lighter instead of a little heavier. My aim down sight aim assist is enabled, of course. That essentially just sort of sticks to your target, and it's pretty essential if you're using a controller. Slow down and strafing aim assist enabled. Airborne mantle behavior automatic. These are stuff I really didn't change much. Aim down sight behavior hold. Steady aim behavior hold. Armor behavior apply 1. Attack vehicle control mode aim based. So these are also things I didn't really change. My stick layout is default. I don't use southpaw. That's essentially also personal preference. You can look into those if you don't want to use default. So these are all the default settings. My left stick minimum input threshold is 20. Left stick max input threshold 99, and it's the same thing for the right stick. So that's something I didn't touch and did not change. Auto move forward disabled. Auto sprint disabled. Sprint behavior toggle. Sprint cancels reload disabled. Parachute auto deploy enabled. Equipment behavior hold. And tap to reload. So that's just simple. When you want to reload your gun, you press square. Moving back up, auto sprint and auto move forward. That's sort of personal preference. If you're playing something like Warzone, you probably want that on. It just takes that tension off your thumb when you're constantly sprinting around the map. Sprint cancels reload, no. So I want to be able to reload while sprinting. That's why I have that disabled. Count and networks, pretty much all the same. And those are my settings for Black Ops Cold War. So if you have any more questions, make sure to drop a comment in the description. As I said, the game just came out yesterday. As the game develops, this will develop as well. So I'm sure you can expect an updating settings video in the future. So thank you guys for watching. My name is Methodz, and you just saw my Black Ops Cold War settings video.